So the road ahead, you've heard a lot of really good presentations about the work that we've completed this year. And so that always leads to the question, what's next? Um, you all saw the Ecological Resource Plan 1.0, which we developed with the City of Scottsdale and partners in 2015. The City of Scottsdale is now updating. They've hired a consultant to update the Ecological Resource Plan since it's, been almost a decade. And that's a wonderful thing. We've got, a completely fresh set of eyes on it. We've got completely new information. And so we certainly have some ideas of what we want to do moving forward, but we also want to make sure that they are in alignment with the needs of the preserves. And then, of course, we always have evolving questions and environmental management needs that change as we get more information. But what I can say is that we do have some really fun and interesting paths forward for each of our projects. So for phenology, there we go. For phenology, we're hoping to start an analysis of the data for the saguaro now that we have quite a few years under our belt. For birds, we're going to be really solidifying that list of sensitive species and toying with the idea of shifting from transects to point counts. The timing is still a little up in the air, but we know that that would allow us to more perfectly link with a lot of the regional data, which is so important to us. With butterflies, we have a really good sense of what's going on with, diversity, abundance, and things like that on a regional scale or a macro scale. But we want to know what individual species are doing now and what some of our sensitive species are. So that's a direction that we're going to go in the next year with butterflies. With arthropods, and again, this is another thing that's open to timing, but we are looking forward to a slight shift in protocol that will help answer a new question. The old question was, are there differences between the edges, that wildland interface area that Robbie talked about, and the interior of the preserve? Essentially, is there a human impact there? The new question is, what about the trails? So that will be a really interesting new phase of it. With bats, the big news is that Jesse is going to get certified to handle bats. That's going to be starting this week. And so we'll be able to bring a lot of the skills in-house, allowing us to test more consistently for white nose syndrome and do health checks and things like that. And we're going to continue working with our remote equipment that helps us stay a little farther away from the bats on a more frequent basis. With the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, has been quietly ticking away up at Northern Arizona University under the direction of Helen Rowe, and they have currently assessed 208 of the species that live in the preserve, so our plant species, 208 different plant species, to see if they are endangered, threatened, or sensitive. That means that we have a little over 100 more to go. Not all of the plants are eligible for investigation here, like some of them are invasive and things like that. But of the eligible plants, we're really getting there. And after that's done, we're going to have a really good sense of whether we have any really sensitive plant species on the preserve, and then we can manage them. Invasive species, we're going to keep working at that 3,000 plus acres, continue working with the City of Scottsdale and testing various methods of treating stink net. And we also are going to continue working with Intel Corporation to scale up the AI with the hope of being able to use it to look at aerial photos, not necessarily through drones, but aerial photos. And by doing that, survey that last 7,000 plus acres that we haven't surveyed. Wildlife cameras. A lot of this is business as usual. This was the big year for getting everything up and running, and now we just got to run it. So, but the new thing is an analysis of what's going on in the culverts near Dynamite Rio Verde Road. And that will give us some really good information of what animals are or are not crossing from north to south or south to north using the culverts. Very good information. Tortoises will continue collecting and analyzing data and sharing the data with our partners, Arizona Game and Fish Department, and working with our partners on to develop a long-term plan and protocols. With whoop. Oh, there we go. It didn't want to change. All right, with restoration, as you can tell from all the presentations, we have a lot going on. And we're really going to move this year into a phase of boots on the ground restoration. We've got the experiment in the ground, and now we're shifting over to, let's get more plants in the ground, not necessarily in an experimental fashion, because that takes, a different amount of resources than planting does. But we certainly will monitor, whether those efforts are being successful through some rapid monitoring. Also selecting the correct seed mixes and broadcast methods. By that, I mean planting, what is the best way to put seeds into the ground that they will be most successful. We'll continue our biocrust experimentation. As you saw from Helen's presentation, there's some real implications for fire reduction there, and we want to really look at what those are. And we've been talking about doing some experimental red brome and Mediterranean grass removal, probably in small areas, and then seeding. The understanding is it would be extremely difficult to do that in large areas, but we can start small and learn what we learn. We're going to continue with the Living Labs work. That is such a beautiful blend of science and education, and we hope to see that expand as our resources are able. And it is going to be all hands on deck with this planting and seeding. So all of those wonderful collaborations that we've formed internally are going to come into play. So with that, I want to say a huge thank you. I know this slide does not cover all of our partners, but I did my best to put in everyone that we've worked with this year, who's kind of front and center. Want to thank the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation and the City of Scottsdale, Scottsdale Unified School District. I could go on and on, but I know we're really low on time. So thank you to all of our partners who make this possible. And most of all, thank you to our citizen scientists and stewards who make everything possible. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you for next year's symposium. Bye.